All right, everybody, Mr. Enyart here. I want you to take a look at the exploratory challenge. This is grade 6, module 1, topic B, lesson 15. So I want you to pause the video, read this question, and try to solve it on your own first. And then I will go over it. As you can see, I've already drawn for you a nice table to help you answer the question, but you can obviously make your own on a journal. However, but pause the video, try the question out, and we'll go over it in just a moment. All right, so let's take a look. I have highlighted the most important information. All this is really pointless for me. I'm just going to focus on the actual details that matter to solving the problem. 2 hours after the end of the broadcast. That's the first time they check how many views, and that was 24. That wasn't 1 hour after viewing. That was 2 hours after viewing is 24. So right away in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, what was 1 hour? Whenever we check this, it looks right down here, we're going by ones, and I don't know what it is for 1. So I'm going to put this into my table, and I'm going to leave a space for my 1. So what should my labels be? Well, I'm going to go with hours because that's the first thing talked about, hours after view, right? And then views. And I'm putting them in that order because that's how the numbers were given to me. First and second order matters. So hours comes before views. And 2 hours is connected with 20 for views. And I can just show that again by darkening these, right? And so I'm going to put the 2 here and the 24 here, leaving me where I can put my 1. Does that make sense? Then it continues to tell me 1 hour after that. Well, isn't that 3 hours? If it was 2 and we do 1 hour after that, wouldn't that be after 3 hours? So I'm going to put that right here, and that was 36. And so I can start to see how my views are moving. Right? If 2 was 24 and 3 was 36, what is the connection? What would 1 hour therefore be? Yes, so if you tried to do 24 divided by 2, you might get the number 12 and realize that for every 1 hour there are 12 views. And then I can start to see that this is just 12 times 2, 12 times 3, and so on and so forth using equivalent ratios. Sorry that that 2 is so ugly. It's a 2. So now I added a few more blocks here. I can predict what 4, 5, and 6 hours of viewing would create. So I'm just going to plug those into my table and recognize that for every hour of viewing, there's 12. So I have 2 options. I can take the number on the left right here, 4, and multiply it by 12 because for every 1 there is 12, right? For every 1 there's 12, which means all of these numbers, in order to get what's next to them, I just multiply by 12. That's my relationship. 1 times 12, 2 times 12, 3 times 12. So I could do 4 times 12. Or I could take my views, my original views, go back to my original. Remember when we did equivalent ratios, we found what both of the numbers were multiplied by? Like 1 times 4 is here, so shouldn't it be 12 times 4? No matter what, I'm doing 4 times 12. So that's going to be 48, and you can fill out the rest. 5 will be 60, very good. And 6 times 12 is 72. So if you look down at number 2, or exercise 2, it starts to bring in the algebra side of using letters for numbers, right? The constant number, meaning the factor that you're multiplying your original ratio by, right? What you're multiplying everything by. But now in these situations, since we're looking at the rate at which the 1 on the left connects to the 1 on the right, in this case it was times what? Times 12. So 2 times 12, 3 times 12, 4 times 12, 5 times 12, 6 times 12. So our constant number, our C here, is 12. And if I'm going from left to right, from hours to views, it's times 12, right? But what if I'm going from right to left? What if I'm going from views to hours? How do I get 2 from 24? Well, wouldn't that just be the opposite of times 12? Aren't I just dividing by 12? So we're always looking for a multiplicative relationship But obviously, if it can be multiplicative, meaning using multiplication, it can also be division if you work it backwards or go the other way. We're not looking for addition or subtraction most of the time. I think there are some exceptions, but in these situations, we're going to be looking for how I get that other number based on multiplying or dividing something and this number on this side. So this was 1 times 12, and so on and so forth. So how does that knowledge help us? Well, what if we needed to look at like an entire month or an entire year, an extended high number of hours being watched, and wanted to figure out views? We can use equations, which is right down here. We can use, oh, that's the wrong thing to do. There, I fixed it. We can use equations with letters for the variables that represent these numbers. So H can represent hours, V can represent views, and then C, our constant number in this case, will be 12. And we can write an equation to help us better understand how to find missing information instead of making a table that goes to 2000. Do you really want to keep this table going all the way to 2000? 7, 8, 9. I'm going to sit here and count to 2000. 9, 10, 11. How long is that going to take? Way too long to go by ones, right? To go by ones by hours. But what if we could skip and just do something to our hours in order to get our views, no matter what our hours are? And vice versa, what if we knew how many views and we just wanted to skip to figure out the hours without making a table? That's what the equation lets us do. So see if you can figure out what equation we could write. How can I use the views and the hours and this number 12, this constant, to find missing views or missing hours, depending on if we're given the hours or the views? Okay, so here we go. What do we do to our hours to get our views? Now, we can't say that H is equal to V, right? Hours and views aren't the same. We cannot say that 1 is the same as 12 because it's not, right? It's just simply not. But what we can do is we can say that we can use this 1 in some way. We can use this H. If H was 1, what do we do to it to get our views? Yeah, we multiplied it by 12. And in math, you write that like this, 12H. And if you zoom in really, really good here, right? Let's zoom in on just 12H, right? 12H is the same as 12 times H. Whenever you have a number and a letter, right? The letter is a representative variable of a number, right? So H represents hours, however many hours there are. And I can just use H to put any number I want in there, but whenever I don't know the number, I just use an H to hold its place. I don't need this multiplication sign because the number and the letter can just be connected. And in math language, that's like a contraction, right? Instead of saying cannot, I can say can't. So instead of saying 12 times H, I just say 12H. It's the same thing, though. When a number and a letter are touching in math, you're multiplying. But there's also an inverse relationship I can make. If I can say that multiply hours by 12 to get V, what do I do to my views to get my hours? Yeah, I'm going to divide it by 12, right? Whatever my views are divided by 12 is giving my H, right? I can also write it like this. So instead of doing V with this symbol of division divided by 12, I could write it, it's the exact same as V over 12. V over 12, and remember, fractions are division. So this says V divided by 12, right? And there's another one even. I could say that it's 1/12 V, right? If I had 1/12 of V, wouldn't that be taking V and dividing it into 12 equal pieces? So all of those are the same phrase, just written in a different way. Chances are the one you will see the most is that middle one. You'll probably want to practice writing V over 12. So, quick review. In order to get the basic understanding in order to find C, a table really helps. We label it in order of the directions given and match our numbers up. We often will leave spaces if we don't get it down to a single unit in one of the categories. Once we get to a single unit in one of the categories, in this situation, hours, we can then find our constant. how do I get from my single unit to my multiple units? In this case, from 1 to 12 is times 12. I can then apply that constant number c to a formula or an equation using an abbreviation of those categories. So hours, H, views, V. And looking at the relationship of how do I get from one side to the next, I apply the multiplicative relationship of C to those. Now, can it be an addition? Yes. But for the most part right now, we're going to be dealing with multiplicative relationships. So I'm taking hours, which is 1 here, times 12 to get my views, and I would write that as 12H equals V. The most common way I would write the inverse would say V over 12, or V divided by 12, equals H. And that's the inverse relationship. And these are the equations I can use to plug in any number of views or hours to find this other missing piece. As always, if you have any questions, leave a comment, like, subscribe, and I will talk to you later. Mr. Enyart, out.